Hello, this is a lesson just to review how to graph linear equations. So one of the easiest way to graph a linear equation is when the equation is given to you in y equals mx plus b. The reason that is so fantastic is because you can gather from that m equals your slope and b equals your y-intercept. If you have one point on that line, you can then apply your slope. So in this situation, the 1 point would be your y-intercept, and then you could apply your slope. So I'm going to take you through a couple different ways to graph based on y equals mx plus b, and then we're just going to look at some different scenarios that you might run into and we can apply different concepts to. So so if I have y equals 3/4 x plus 2. The first thing I do is I look at my y-intercept. This is my starting point. So I'm going to plot a point on my line. My first point is going to be where y equals 2. I don't have a stylus, so it's going to be kind of sketchy as far as reading the points, but I'm doing the best I can with plotting the points on the graph. We're going to start where y equals positive 2. So after I plot that point, I'm pretty much done with that y-intercept, and now this slope is what matters. Going from my y-intercept, I'm going to rise up 3. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to run over 4. So it goes to right about this point, okay? I could go up another 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and run another 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's best sometimes to get a couple points to get a nice straight line. Using a straight edge, I can then connect my points. And there is my graphed line based on y equals 3/4 x plus 2. Things I check is I always go back and make sure I started from a positive if it's supposed to be positive, and then I check that my slope is positive after I graphed it. And if you look, it's a positive line, therefore it's correct. In this situation, I do the same thing. I look and I say, what's my starting point? Okay, my starting point's -7. So I go to my y-axis, this axis here, and I drop 7, and I start right here. I plot my point. Okay, that's like the anchor. Now that I'm anchored down to the coordinate plane, I can move around it. My slope looks a little bit differently because I've just got a negative sign in front of that x, but I know my slope is really -1x, and it's -1/1. So from my starting point, my y-intercept, I'm going to drop 1 and run 1. Drop 1 and run 1. And now I have 3 points. I can connect them. Again, use a straight edge, long line, draw arrows on the end. And this is a negative slope. I have a negative slope in my equation. I started on the negative area of y, or the negative portion of the y-axis, and it looks good. Fantastic. When I look at this equation, I notice that I don't have that constant plus anything. So I'm starting from a different point. What we don't write is when it's a +0. So in this situation, we're starting from the origin. So when you get an equation such as y equals -2x, and there's no value for the y-intercept, it's because it starts at the origin. So my first point will be at the origin, and then I know my slope is -2, run 1. So drop 2 and run 1. Drop 2 and run 1. And here is my line. Oops, I did not do a good job at connecting my points, but you would with your straight edge. Okay, let's look at some unique scenarios. In this situation, it's not in slope-intercept form. It is not in my y equals mx plus b. But what I know is that my line is undefined. So, undefined lines are vertical. Undefined lines are vertical because that's when 0 is in the run, so we're never running. So if an undefined line is vertical, I need to look to see where it's going through the x-axis. So if I say x is 2, and even if I plot the point 2, -3, I'm right there. Where x is 2, I'm right there. No matter what on this line, it's going to be vertical, and it's going to go through where x is 2. So any undefined line, you just need the x value, and you're going to make a nice vertical line. In this situation, we have the same point, 2, -3, but the slope is 0. So we know with a slope, there's no rise, so the lines will be horizontal. Horizontal lines will go through the y-axis, not the x, unless it was on the origin. So I'm going to graph my point where x is 2 and y is -3. Or I could also just pick up my y because I know it's going to be a horizontal line. And 0 slope means we go that way. And that's how I'd graph if I was told the slope was 0 and I only had 1 point. Okay, so now we're being given a point, -3 and 6, that the line passes through, and we're being given a slope, -1/3. Sometimes it's easier to write it vertically. So I'm going to plot my point. When x is -3 and y is 6, it looks like we're right there. Let's do it in black. Maybe that'll be a little more, yeah. And then I'm going to apply my slope. I drop 1, I run 3 because it's negative, so one of the movements has to be negative. I could have also gone up 1 and back 3. So as long as one of your moves is negative, it's okay. And then I connect my points, and there is my line. So we've gone through all the situations you perhaps would see to graph a linear function, and hopefully this has helped. Feel free to re-watch it, and good luck for your assessment on Monday. Bye, guys.